What's going on, everyone? This is Vince with vshred.com, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you why you're doing the lateral raise wrong and how to fix it.
I'ma keep on going up till the lights go down.
Alright, so like I said in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the lateral raise and why it is that you're probably doing it wrong and the most common mistakes that I see in the gym when people are doing lateral raises. Now, before I get into it, I just want to say, if you've come here looking for help with building muscle, getting in shape, that's awesome. But if you're actually trying to get in shape and you want to burn body fat, you want to build muscle, the easiest way of figuring it out is figuring out what your body type is. And we have a free body type quiz that tells you what your body type is and what to do in the gym and in the kitchen. And that's the easiest way possible to get in shape and see actual results. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a link to it down in the description below. But getting into the meat of this now. So like I said, we're talking about lateral raises, right? A fantastic exercise for your shoulders, great for building that outer head of your deltoid. But the first mistake that I want to talk about, and kind of has something to do with the rest of the mistakes that I'm going to be talking about, is you're going too heavy. Because one thing you have to keep in mind with the lateral raise is it is what you call an accessory movement. It's not one of your compound lifts. You're not supposed to go super heavy. You're not recruiting a bunch of different muscles to move this weight. And so this is a movement that you're going to be using a very small muscle for, and therefore what you should do is really focus on form. I've always gotten the best results from going lighter. I think the most that I'll do lateral raises with is like 25 pounds, maybe, usually from 10 to 20 pounds to be realistic. And that way it just allows me to go slower, focus on my tempo, not create any momentum. And that's actually going to be tip number 2. So the second mistake that I see is people creating momentum with their knees. You see everybody doing lateral raises just like this, and it looks fine when you're doing this, but the issue is that little bounce in your knee. That little bounce in your knee does a lot more than you're probably giving it credit for when it comes to getting the weight from here to about there. And then from there to about there, you're using your muscle, but you want full range of motion. If you're not gonna get full range of motion because you're creating momentum with your knee, you're not gonna get the most out of the exercise. And if you're creating momentum because you're going too heavy, like I said, go lighter, lock those knees into place, don't move them, and make sure that your form is nice and strict. If you want to, you can sit down on a bench and you can use that to take your legs out of the equation completely and not even have to think about not creating momentum. But that's mistake number 2. Now, the third mistake that I see a lot also has to do with momentum, but not with your knees. It's more so with your arms. A lateral raise should be from the side of your body out to basically even with your shoulders. You don't need to be going way up here. It's just even with your shoulders, down to the side, straight arm, and keep going back and forth like that. But what you see sometimes is people bringing this weight way inward and almost like turning their shoulders forward and bringing this weight together in front of their body. And then what that allows them to do is, again, create momentum with their arms, because from here to about there, you're not working your shoulder. This is just the weight hanging and you kind of moving. And so you're not working your shoulder. And then so the shoulder is going to get engaged starting about there. So instead of bringing this weight together in the front and allowing your shoulder muscle to relax and also creating momentum to get the weight back up, stop just before you hit the sides of your body. Yes, it's going to be a shorter range of motion, but you're going to feel a much deeper burn in your shoulder and get better results from it and a better pump. The fourth mistake that I want to talk about is not shrugging your shoulders up as you're doing lateral raises. And like I said, this is a big one because with lateral raises, you're not going to get away from using 3 different muscle groups. You're going to be using your deltoids, your traps, and your rhomboids a little bit. So with every single lateral raise, you're going to be using all of those muscles. But you can change the form just a little bit so that you can favor your deltoids a little bit more than if you don't really focus on your form that much, and therefore you're hitting your traps a lot. I see people doing lateral raises at the gym and they have these massive traps and they have these small deltoids, and it's probably because when they're going up to do this, they're doing a lot of shrugging, focusing on pulling this weight up rather than out. But what I like to do is make sure that instead of shrugging this weight up, first thing I'm doing is pressing my shoulders down. So you're depressing your scapula, pressing your shoulders down as much as you can. And then from there, you're almost like thinking that there's a fence out to the side of you and you're trying to get your arm up under that fence. So you're going outward and then up and back down and then inward. And then you're also not allowing yourself to lose that tension at the bottom of the exercise. So out, up, down, in, rather than just trying to lift this weight up. And the more you can depress that scapula, the more you can press those shoulders down, the better you're gonna feel this in your deltoids. And the fifth and final mistake that I see made is not controlling the eccentric contraction. And so what I mean by this is with every lift, you have 3 contractions, or you have 3 possible contractions. You have your concentric, which is for this, the way up. You have your isometric, which is basically just holding the weight in one spot, depending on where it is. And then the eccentric, which is the lowering of the weight back down. Now, a lot of things can affect this, like A, going too heavy, B, creating momentum. And so you wanna make sure that you're going light enough to where you can actually control that weight on the way down. If you're doing lateral raises with 50 pounds, you're gonna be creating momentum to get it up, and you're gonna be dropping it right down. But instead, what you should do is focus on that eccentric contraction almost more than the concentric contraction, because your muscles are going to be stronger in that contraction. I'll do a couple of sets of really clean form, and then as my delts start fatiguing, what I like to do is what are called forced negatives. And so what forced negatives are just putting a little more emphasis in that eccentric contraction. I'll go 1 second up, and then just slow it down on the way down, and almost try to make it like 3 or 4 seconds on the way down. And that overload of that eccentric contraction is going to absolutely murder your deltoids. And I think you'll have probably one of the best shoulder workouts you've had in a while. But there you have it, the 5 most common mistakes that I see made when it comes to doing the lateral raise. So my goal here is for you to stop doing it wrong. Now, there are a couple of other exercises that I've done videos about that people also do wrong commonly, but should also be in your training regimen, and it's called the You're Doing It Wrong series. I'll put a card up here to it if you guys want to go check it out. I think we've got squats, which are a huge one, and lat pull downs in there, which are a good one, and more coming out. So make sure you're subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss out on more of those. But that's all for today, guys. I hope this helped. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.